Destiny 2, we're on Xbox Series X, taking a look at this optimized version of the Crucible. And with that, we have the 120 Hz mode on. So that means we're getting 120 FPS, and I'm wanting to showcase a little bit of gameplay of the multiplayer that does support this particular mode within the game. So for context, I will note that while I am playing at 120 FPS, I cannot showcase that because YouTube does not support it. I don't have anything that I can record that with, so you're basically seeing the Xbox DVR recording at 4K 60 and hopefully getting an idea of the increased smoothness and the benefits you get from having this higher frame rate, which is really quite delightful. And yes, someday I hope that I'll be able to provide fully the scope of what this sort of increased fluidity provides, but at this current point in time, it's just not possible. So yeah, let's jump into the action. I'm just showing off a few matches. We're doing Control. If you're not familiar with the Crucible, this is Destiny 2's direct PvP mode. They do have other options. There's one where it's a bit of a Gambit, where it's a bit of a PvP, PvE type thing, a little bit of a mix. That one's kind of fun if you've never seen that. But yeah, just so you are aware, in order to get the 120 Hz, you actually have to go into the menu once your TV's set up so that you can support it. Obviously you have to have the right screen and the right plugin, and then you actually have to go and manually turn on the option to have 120, just so that you are aware of that if you are wondering about getting that mode kind of going, or just being like, oh, there's no real difference. And that's kind of why. Outside of that, if you're not playing in this style, you will get the benefit of a 60 FPS setup, so that's kind of cool too. So anyways, this is fairly kind of fun. It's interesting, the PvP in the game. I'm not necessarily huge into it because, I don't know, they're just not that kind of edge that really keeps me going for this one. But I will admit that it's quite flashy and fairly cool looking at the same time. Though the jaggedy crystal thing, it's a bit weird to me, and it seems to be a little bit overused, so I don't know if there needs to be some, I guess you could say, balancing work in that regard, but I don't know. I'm not that up to date on things. Aside from checking out this great optimization. So there's also HDR support, which is really cool looking. That's kind of nice. But I'm sure you're really wanting to hear more details about how it feels, how it plays. I definitely would say that if you are a competitive player that's more serious about, Destiny, you're going to have a bit of a big advantage having the option to have this increased fluidity, because it just allows you to really line up those shots a little bit better, get those moments where it's a little bit close, getting those extra frames, so you actually get those shots and you actually get that damage going, and you get that edge of just having something that feels a lot faster paced. It's a lot quicker in terms of the action and how you react to different situations. I thought it was quite exciting to see, because it didn't, well, we knew this was coming for a while, right? But I didn't really think of Destiny in my mind as being a game where I'm psyched for the 120 FPS multiplayer. But when you get into it, you're like, oh, this is actually really quite nice. And I've played quite a few games at this, frame rate. I've done Cold War, like Black Ops, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. I've done the Master Chief Collection. And, some of the other games have, just a 120 FPS mode. But I think those ones are the most relatable because they're, shooters that are kind of in a similar style of play and competitiveness. At least I think so. I think they're pretty decent comparisons to make. But yeah, it's really quite cool to have this kind of mode here, because I didn't really think, even with this generation game, that we would have this available. And here we are, just jumping into a number of... Did I just do the same thing and die the same way that I died 2 seconds ago? Anyways, I didn't think that we would get this sort of, not only graphical fidelity, but also the fluidity at the same time. Now, this is toned down, I guess, visually in regards to the rest of the game, but I mean, it's multiplayer, so I don't think the visuals really matter as much in comparison to getting that extra performance here, at least in my opinion. If you are like also wanting to play this from a competitive angle, I think you're going to get that out of, well, basically getting those frames. And the game itself still looks fantastic. I mean, this is toned down and it's still this gorgeous. It's like, yeah, I don't really have much of an issue. Totally worth that sacrifice. But if it is too much of a thing for you, you can just, you know, not have the option on. That's totally up to you and how you want to experience your Destiny setup and play. But yeah, I think it feels really great, and it's just quicker, if you get what I mean. Like, how you move through the environment, how you react to situations, it just feels a lot faster. Like, Destiny's already a game where, in the multiplayer, honestly, things are really quick in terms of how fast you kind of die, how quickly you can get shot at. So it makes a big difference having that extra little bit of time in order to, you know, get those hits in, get those shots off, be able to battle other people. And I'm not the greatest player here either. I think the next match I end up doing a little bit better, but yeah, I'm sure there's a number of people out there that really do take this seriously and play this a lot. You're gonna really notice that little extra bit of edge if you are, you know, that competitive player that wants that angle. We did win though, so I'd say that's a pretty good match, at least in my book. And then we're jumping into our second to third. We're showing off 3 matches here. I think the last one's got the same map for whatever reason. I ended up on it. I have to, when I'm recording these 120 hertz videos, I have to like lug up the console to another room that's got the TV in it, because the TV that I have just bought is not set up because my TV stand was too small. But I just got a new TV stand, so I gotta build that, and then, well, you know how IKEA is, right? You gotta construct it. And then I'll be rolling in a more comfortable setting where I can do maybe some more like live commentary type things, which is what I normally do. It's just a bit weird because I have to go and I have to, you know, time constraints. I gotta pick a time where other people aren't available, and I gotta film, and yeah, then I gotta do the audio afterwards. It's actually a bit of a pain, quite honestly, to do these multiplayer focused things, but people seem to be generally liking them. So if you're enjoying the more casual, I guess you could say, play, comments, likes, and stuff, definitely let me know that so I can do more of them, because it's kind of fun to experiment and see how they're playing, you know, the different games with this higher fluidity and jumping into things. I think they've got an interesting selection of maps present here too. I'm just not sure what they would really specifically do to get me really invested in the multiplayer in this one. It's weird, right? Like, I don't mind it. I think it's kind of cool. It's got an interesting pacing to it, neat combat, and it's unique how they handle the multiplayer, like the levels and everything like that. I think it's kind of fascinating, but at the same time, it's just like, is what it is. I think I was maybe more invested in the first game's multiplayer, and then it kind of just over time I fizzled out of really getting into that Destiny action. But I have relatively kept up with the, I guess you could say, story-based content for Destiny 2 at least. Doing a lot better in this match, you know, I think, you know, the kills and stuff, I think it's going along quite nicely. But yeah, the maps are cool. Again, the art style and stuff like that really does sort of shine through in Destiny. They've done a wonderful job with the aesthetics of the environment. And then to have all of this running very smoothly, lots of little particle effects, it's impressive. It really is. And I'm genuinely curious why they thought they should add 120 FPS. Like, I'm not complaining, that's not what I'm trying to get across, but I'm just like, so was someone at the office just like, well, we can do it, guys, let's get it done? Because you think the main focus would be on the core of the experience, right, where more people are playing, which is the I guess you could say narrative driven, or the patrols, or the strikes, or the raids, right? That would be where more people, I would think, would be lined up to kind of play and experience this. And it's nice that the Crucible wasn't just an afterthought with this update, because to achieve 120, you know, you actually really have to, I guess you could say, push things or make sure it's running smoothly, because you notice this stuff a little bit more. Unless, of course, you know, people have got the stands and everything that support it. Everybody's got, well, not everyone has different ones, but a lot of people have different, you know, stands and TV options at the current point in time. That's just how things are with this more, because it's still an emerging technology. As odd as that sounds, like, I don't think the technology of frame rates is really anything too mind-blowing. It's not like a completely different thing like HDR is. It's not completely new like VRR is, or, you know, the free syncing and everything. Well, I don't know how old that is, but I'm saying in the sense that, you know, 120 wasn't really pushed at all in the console space, and then, like, really the last 6 months or so, all of a sudden it's like a big thing. We're seeing a lot of games support it, and I'm like, wow, this is a great way to play games. You know, I really feel the difference when I'm playing these titles, whether I'm doing, you know, jumping into Destiny, or whether I'm playing like Call of Duty, or I'm playing Halo. I'm like, oh, this feels way better. You know, the setup, the way you're able to place your shots and stuff, it makes a difference. It really does. Even though, you know, if I was better and I had a lot more practice in this one, I could probably really nail folks down by having that little bit of an edge. It's an advantage in play. I think it's a good one, and if you have the option to do it, definitely, you know, jump on it. And get ready to just blast foes away and have a better chance of, you know, decimating your opponents as you're going about on these levels, and having maybe a better time with it. Yeah, that was just, I don't know, I was thinking they're a bad move. But yeah, it's neat to see the evolution of Destiny, and I do wonder if they're going to further push the Crucible over time. I'm not really sure what else you would do with it, because this is supposed to be like a long-term game from what I've been reading and hearing. So assuming we don't get a Destiny 3 for a while, this could be like the game's competitive multiplayer for the next 3 or more years, right? So it's like, where else do you evolve this? Because in 3 years, we have no idea where technology is going to go in consoles. We have this at consoles, but is there going to be like a mid-gen refresh? What would they do with this if this was the case? Because Destiny, you know, they get new content, they get new expansions, they update things for the different releases that happen. It's like, where else do you push this? Are they going to add new maps? They're going to add new content? They're going to add new modes? Who knows? How are they going to keep it fresh? But that's up to them to really work on, right? It's just up to me to kind of be like, interesting thoughts. And that's really what it is. Kind of having a casual, I guess you could say, discussion, and talking a little bit about how it's feeling, how it's looking, and giving you an idea of just the style of play that is present here. And yeah, it's very, very neat. And I know people are probably like critiquing my attacking style and everything like that, but it is what it is, right? Can't really expect too much out of me, considering I haven't been spending hours away in the Crucible because I got all these other games to play. But, you know, I did actually do fairly well back in Destiny 1, really, I guess, in the Crucible. I don't think I was the worst in this one either. Now, with that, actually, I guess a good story to go over would be, I saw the Gambit mode back at its reveal at E3. I was actually doing a dual booking for, I guess you could say, Activision at the time. I can't remember what Call of Duty it was then, but I actually got to play Gambit. It was one of the first, I think. Well, I mean, you're in there on the show floor. I can't remember. It was like one of the first days on the show floor, but I got to jump in and actually check out that mode early, so that was kind of a bit of a memorable sort of mode to see in action, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. I was quite set in regards to, you know, working with Activision on content, Call of Duty every year. And then you've got Destiny 2 being kind of sub-supported by it, and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And then they did the split, and, you know, I still get to cover the Destiny expansions, which is kind of exciting, but yeah, it was a neat time. It was just very interesting to go there and to check out this game in that particular situation. And it's probably not as big of a deal as some of the other things I've done at E3, but it's kind of a cool thing to sort of mention, because it's something that could be forgotten over time, really, by myself even. Likely over time it'll be like, oh, Gambit mode. I was like, what is that? Or even forget the story attached to the fact that I went to E3 and checked out the Gambit mode, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's a neat mode. It's a neat boost having this go on. I think that's about all I have to really say about this one. It just feels better. It's, you know, the extra frames, you can line up your shots a little bit better. You can react to situations a little bit more swiftly and more effectively, which I think is good. And you can just kind of get the lineup of where your accuracy is a little bit better set. But yeah, I just enjoyed the rest of the gameplay, I guess, if you want to, and that's really all I have to say about this one. It's kind of cool showing off a few maps and matches, and I do wish I would have had more variety in the multiplayer, but kind of take what you can get at the time when I've got all this other stuff I have to deal with constantly. But yeah, hope you enjoyed, and again, if you want to see more of this stuff, you know, like liking and leaving comments and stuff saying you enjoyed it is really helpful for feedback and that on these types of focuses on 120 FPS gameplay, because I'm not sure you're getting too many people covering it, and I'm sorry that at this time in history I can't really show you what this has to offer, because it's way cooler than even I think you can fully see here.
Keep the pressure on. Zone A lost. 5 minutes left. Keep it up. What can stop you if you fight together? Nothing. Zone A captured. That's a power play. You took them, now hold them. Go. Make them cry. Zone C lost. You captured Zone C. Power play. Keep the pressure on. There. Fight on and claim victory. 3 minutes. Hold strong, and this battle is yours. Slow down, and that's why we have fire teams. Captured Zone B. That's a power play. You took them, now hold them. Sound tactics bring victory. You're a wall around those zones.